welcome to Beauties and Beasties, the independent pest podcast for the UK.
Hello. How you doing?
How are you, man? Yeah, okay. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing today?
All right, yeah. How's your week been?
Oh, it's been very good. I actually had the opportunity to, for the first time in a long time, be involved with one of the regional forums, the regional, trade association webinars, where I gave a classic talk on strategy and tactics.
When was that?
Didn't make any. That was on Wednesday, actually, exactly the same time that you were over at the MPTA day. So how did that go?
There is a whole different feel about it, but that was something I wanted to talk to you about, because we talk about Ask Pest Control was there, lovely bloke. We talk about the industries working together, the trade bodies working together rather than against each other. And when I found out they're on at the same time, I was thinking, what's going on? I don't know. I guess they'd both say they booked it at the same time, was independent, etc., etc. But it did feel a little bit like pick one or the other.
Yeah.
So when I heard, I was thinking, I'm sure it's a one-off, but I hope that isn't a pattern which repeats itself.
Oh no! I mean, if you look at years gone by, it's just a case of they do tend to sort of like be at different times, so you can get to both of them if you're a member of both associations. I think it's just bad timing. I mean, especially with the webinars and the regional forums, both the associations tend to sit down in December, don't they, and be like, these are all the days, and then they publish them in January, and it's probably only in the first couple of months you realise that there's a bit of an overlap. But yeah, it's all good. So where was your one? It must have been close to home.
No, it was not. It was 3 hours away. Went to that. There is a whole different feeling and a different buzz about the MPTA. You would have to go to get it. Like, it wasn't just the presenters or the people who were putting it on. Even the people in the crowd had a different feel to them. Like, same people, but it felt like they were season the nettle. Is that the right way to put it? There was some good stuff went on. Tell you what was funny. Basis turned up. We were obviously there with Pest software and thingy.
So guys, for some context here, Sean, you had a table at this particular. You've got tables. You're going to all of the MBTA roadshows, aren't you? To actually sort of like present your technology and to present your alternative CPD platform. So this is why having Basis there is actually probably a little bit.
So Basis turned up, but they hadn't told them they were coming, so they didn't have a table. So they tipped up and it was like, where's my table? And they're like, we don't have one and we don't have space for you. And everyone was like, oh, no. So I said, oh, you can share a table with me if you want. And I see the guy from Basis was like, is this a joke? Are you lulling me into a false sense of security? I was like, no. We do the same thing. It just means that people don't have to walk very far to find out what their options are. It's absolutely fine. So he like sort of gingerly set up, and then within 10 minutes we're just chatting away. It was absolutely fine and got on no bother at all. Have a difference of opinion on certain things, which is to be expected, but it's that old thing. There's no need to be a tit, is there? You can always be polite, can't you?
Okay. So just out of interest, for those who wants to reach out to their Basis representative, who is the gentleman who is now the face of Basis for the roadshows? What's his? You spent an entire day with him, and I can't remember.
I'm not like that. Yeah, I just said hello, spoke to him for like an hour, and never even asked his name. I don't think he asked. Right? I'd recognise him if I saw him again.
I'm so sorry. I thought I was genuinely leading you in there for a little bit.
I don't know his name. No. But he was a nice bloke. Like, I'm not going to say what he was sound. We had a laugh and a giggle, and we listened to Lawrence do his talk, which was quite funny because it was a little bit. That was the funny one because he was talking about these firms have some sort of lobbying thing going on in Europe, don't they? where they are trying to get rodenticide banned so they can sell more traps.
Oh, yeah. So I can
What
give
they're
you a little bit
called?
of background on that. No Chero, which says no chemical rodenticides,
Yeah,
is what it
that's
says.
it. But it was quite funny because then I turned around and went, "But isn't that what they're trying to do? Just trying to sell us more chemicals." So he was like, saying, "It's terrible. All they want to do is get rid of it so they can sell you more traps." I was like, "You just want to keep it so you can sell us more chemicals." And he was like, "I've never thought of it like that." I know it's not, but I was just being facetious and joking on. But yeah,
Well, to be fair,
Jason McFly, cracking day. Jason, just quickly, you say that cracking day, good talks, met some new and old friends, good to talk. Yeah. Did you feel from a technician's point of view that it felt like a different aura to the place, to the event? We can with
well,
them.
while we
Yeah.
wait for that, yeah, while we wait for that, I'd just like to say two things. Number one, it's really great to hear how well attended the forum was and how well
Yeah.
attended. And this is what you and I have been saying for some considerable time, which is there is always a lot to be had from just sort of like spending that day either going to one of these webinars, going to one of these forums. It may take a little bit of travel because unfortunately they can't go to every single county. Neither of the associations can. They try to throw the net as wide as they can. But when you get there, the people that you meet, it's not just the distributors, the manufacturers, the trade associations, it's the people who work around you as well. And so you make some sort of like really good connections with that. So
Yeah,
absolutely
and
this year, if
I'm
you've
gonna
got one
drop
thing, go for
Jasmine
it.
Emerson in it as well because it was absolutely brilliant. So Jasmine, she's watching you now. She sits down like we're late going in for dinner, and she sits down, and me and her's chatting away, having a dinner, putting the world to rights, da. And Kevin comes and sits next to her, and he's like, "Can I steal you for a minute?" And Jasmine's like, "Yeah, why?" She's like, "Because you're the presenter, waiting for you." You lost track of time. I was sitting in the thing waiting for her. She's telling me all about her talk, but she should have been in the opposite room.
Oh, Jasmine. Oh, I'm sure the talk was absolutely phenomenal, though, and I look forward to getting down and seeing one soon and being able to see you all present your bits and bobs. So, oh, that's absolutely amazing. I can't remember what the second thing I was going to say was. What were you talking about before that? I feel it was quite important. Oh, that was it, the no Shiro thing. So the no Shiro thing is
Oh
a bit
yeah,
of a worry because I think as we actually touched on this with our interview with Alan Buckle, if you remember last year,
yeah.
and there are a number of stipulated use patterns for rodenticides that go through BPR, right? And it's been well established in Europe in ECHA that if there are more than so many alternatives, recognized alternatives to eschar rodenticides, they will just stop using eschar rodenticide. They will stop the applications for, and they'll stop the submissions and approvals. That's what I'm looking for eschars. And so when you have groups who are actively lobbying and saying traps are a valid alternative to eschars in all situations, it's a real worry because actually at that point we might start losing eschars. It's not a case of I want to sell more rodenticides and I want to sell more traps. No, there's a genuine worry that if these get seen as a viable alternative to rodenticides in all situations, then what will happen is we'll start to lose rodenticides by proxy there. So that's the worry with what we're seeing there. And it's, we all want to keep traps. We all, I'm not saying traps don't work. I'm not saying there's not a place for traps, but I'm saying that there's a tool for every job. And to suddenly have our toolkit reduced would be really, really bad, to put it
Yeah.
mildly. But there we go. So yeah, I anyone who wants to look up on this, look at the No Shero group, see what they're trying to do, and make your own opinions from there. But there we go.
Rupert Fergan says, someone you mostly disagree with will be on the same view on some stuff. And I think we'll probably find that tonight, won't we? Because we have a brilliant guest coming on. Talk all sorts of
Yes.
things that me and Alex see totally the opposite ways. It should be an
Well,
interesting chat.
just before we bring Adam on, let's caption this a little bit. So we're going to be talking a lot about smart technology, and with that, I mean, I will start. I will put my colours before the mast, and I will say I am a big advocate of smart technology. I think it is an emerging, an emerging not trend, but it's a part of our industry that's still very young. There's still a lot of kinks to work out. There's still a lot of stuff to work on, but the premise and the future is very, very exciting with this, and there's a lot to do. So I am very, very pro smart technology. However, Sean?
I am very, very, very pro smart technology, not the technology we've got. I think that the industry as a standard has decided to fit smart technology into what we have rather than thinking about what we need. So I think that the smart technology in the form of a bait box will be the mini disc to the CD player. I think it'll be a short-lived wonder that is very quickly lost. That's what I think. But let's see. You know.
Oh. Let's see. Well, I mean, there's a lovely expression which I'm very, very fond of touting out, which was, and it's from my good friend and colleague Oliver Madge, who says, light bulbs weren't invented by candlestick makers, and if you get a candlestick maker to make a light bulb, it'll look like a candlestick and it won't work. So you've got to think out the box. You've got
Yeah,
to, if you've got the new technology, it's got to be new and it's got to be fit for purpose. And it's a really
yeah,
exciting sandbox to create something that we need. And when we see Me Too's and, shoehorns in Bluetooth speaker on the side of a digital radio, is that necessarily what we need? So
yeah,
shall we bring in the expert on this rather than us just
yeah,
waxing lyrical?
yeah.
Lovely stuff. In which case, welcome to the stage, Adam Hawkeye Holt. Now, before we start, Adam, please explain Hawkeye for us, if you can.
Sure, Hawkeye. So that was my nickname I got growing up because I was fortunately blessed with 2010 vision, which I think is 1 in 10,000 people. And so
Okay.
I have that ability when I'm going places or like going collecting shark's teeth or going to, look at something. I just have that ability to find some of those standout things that other people cannot see.
So just for folks listening, we all say 2020 vision being the standard. And what we actually mean by that is when you say 2020, it means you can read letters that are 20 inches high at 20 feet away. So with that, that means Adam can read letters that are 10 inches high at 20 feet away. To put that into some perspective, your average rat that we are so keen on dealing with, it's estimated that they have a visual acuity of 20/600, which means that at 20 feet away, to accurately read those letters would need to be roughly 56 feet tall if they could read at all. So there we go. Adam, the very antithesis of rodent vision there. So thank you for that. So yes, Adam, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And I was listening to what you guys were saying, and I have interesting thoughts about that and feedback if we're okay to, add that as well. But with that being said, hi everybody. My name is Adam Holt. I'm born and raised in Florida. My background is 25 years in the pest control industry. I have my undergrad and my master's degree in entomology from the University of Florida. It's stamped right here. There we go. And I'm also a board certified entomologist. I'm 17 hours away from my PhD, which I don't know if I'll ever finish. And so I actually, oddly enough, just found my unpublished master's thesis sitting in a box the other day up in my, closet. So I'm thinking about trying to get that published here in the near future. But as far as I feel like I'm everything everywhere all at once. I've done a lot in the industry. I've worked for the big players like Terminix, Advanced IPM, Innovative Pest Solutions, a lot of the PCT top 100 companies, at least here in the States. And just so everybody knows, anything that's in the PCT top 100, I think is around a $10 million pest control company or higher. And
Oh, wow.
so obviously Terminix is number one now because they've, merged with Rentokil. So they're worth, I think, like $4.7 billion, something crazy.
Yeah.
And so I've been on the public health vector side with mosquito control. I've obviously teach right now. I've taught a lot of kids. I've been an adjunct professor of biology. I've worked on the pest control software side. I worked a small stint in the cannabis industry, writing IPM programs for some of the big players like TrueLeaf, Candescent, all that kind of stuff. Pretty cool thing. And then let's see, I've worked for the fumigation side with Douglas Products. I've worked on the distributor manufacturing side with Amgar Products. I've done a little bit of everything.
Definitely sounds like that, doesn't it? So with that, blimey. So I have to ask you two questions. Number one, what was your master's thesis on? Go on, what was the title?
I wrote a Florida field guide to bird lice because I'm really weird and I like ectoparasites.
We've had a couple of parasitologists on over previous episodes, and yeah, I think we can say anyone that gets nerdy about ectoparasites or endoparasites definitely is a breed unto themselves.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm the
put it
weird
that way.
person where like I'll actually pick up the fresh dead roadkill and bring it home and put it in my garage and lay it on a white sheet, and put a light on it and just wait for all the little ectoparasites to crawl off.
There was a fantastic study done by two gentlemen, Webster and MacDonald, in Kent, in the UK, back in the 90s. And they monoxided an entire rat burrow, and they excavated it, and they took all the rats out of it, and they sent them away for pathology. And the list of endoparasites and diseases that they had, it was 2 A4 pages. It's amazing. But what was more fascinating is on these animals that they found, 100% of rats excavated from these burrows, 100% had fleas on or near them at time of removal. 2/3 had mites, and a third had lice, which meant that there were multiple rats in there that had all three at the same time. And of course,
Yep.
all three of those animals are hematophagic in one sense or another, and they will also have their own disease vectors that they'll bring along. So
Yeah,
they are literally a little flotilla of just sadness.
you kind of bring up about so the one thing that you're bringing up right now, which is so lucratively important, is you were talking about the escars earlier before I came on, and so at least
Mhm.
here in California and in the states, they've done a lot of banning of the different rodenticides, the bromadiolon, the chlorphacinone, diphacinone has just got it to the list, and so with that being said, we're seeing an uptick in all of the diseases, right? Like we had, I think,
Yep.
over 100. We had over 100 cases of marine typhus in LA. We had 15 deaths. I mean, we're seeing this uptick in all of these diseases because obviously if we're going to take away all of the rodenticides, it's going to be hard to control the rodent population, which in turn has the flea population, which in turn has the disease population increasing.
I mean, in the States last year, there was a record number of bubonic places, wasn't there, as a result of interactions with muskrats and prairie dogs.
Yep.
Going through Central Africa, Lassa fever, which is vectored by rats and their exoparasites. And in the Middle East, there's a huge problem with leishmaniasis on sand rats and dune rats as they break grounds to build, more and more buildings. They flood these rats out, which then enter the city, and they spread leishmaniasis far and wide. So yeah, it's something that we don't really focus on too much in the UK, and we probably should, which is vector management. And I actually think in our very last podcast, we spoke a little bit about vector management and how we are just not prepared for it, generally speaking, because we have all of the animals that can vector these diseases. We have rats, we have mosquitoes, we have, houseflies, everything that can transmit these diseases. Yet mercifully, the diseases are not here. So we've got all the vectors and none of the diseases, but it's only going to take a little one snafu and we are going to find ourselves in quite some deep water. So yeah, that's going to be fun.
Have you seen that bed bugs are now transmitting MRSA?
No.
One second.
How?
I'll be back.
Yeah, they're picking it up on their tarsi, and
He's
then
gonna
they're
go
basically transmitting it with their tarsi.
Okay. Right. Okay. So they're mechanical vectors of it as opposed to
Correct.
biological. Okay.
Yep.
The Killgerm, a company in the UK, which I think operates also in Europe and around, they funded a really fascinating study where they looked at flies caught on EFK traps around hospitals or insect-like units, depending on your philosophical bent. And so with that, they actually took the flies off, they analysed them, and on their tarsi and on their bodies, they found that they were also vectors of MSRA as well. And more worrying, in units which were meant to be clean wards, they were still finding flies. And okay, it was an exceptionally low number. I think it was about 14%. But still, it was showing that flies were coming in, landing on wounds, and then moving into wards considered to be clean and sterile, which is just a terrifying thought. And that's just the humble housefly at the end of the day.
100%. Yeah. Just for everybody who's listening, if they don't know what MRSA is, it's methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus.
Yes, it is. Bad news bear at the end of the days.
Yeah.
Staph infection on crack. And the terrifying thing is the staph infections, if they get subcutaneous, become or can turn to necrotizing fasciitis, which is basically where you're eaten alive by bacteria.
Yep.
Oh, Sean
So
loves these conversations.
yeah, so you're bringing up a good point too. So a lot of doctors will go in and they'll say, "Oh, you got bit by a brown recluse," when it's probably really MRSA, right? Do they actually know it's a brown recluse? Did they identify the brown recluse, Loxosceles reclusa, or did they just, you know what I mean?
It's yeah. I think false widows, steatoda in the UK got a lot of bad press because people were getting bitten, and then they were getting these great big infected lesions on their arms. And it turned out actually, after a little bit of digging, so to speak, that most of these infections were as a result of, because spider bites tend to be quite itchy, people just scratching
They were like,
grime into
yeah,
these open wounds, and
right.
you are getting basically these. Right, we are not here to talk about this. We are not here to talk about this. And I'm pretty certain the comments are just going to be like, Alex, I'm eating, mate. Just
I want to talk about
no.
all this stuff, Alex. I love this. We have to have another episode where we just talk about all the gross stuff, please.
Oh yeah, you can do that with you.
Sean, what would you like to talk about? That's not
Anything,
bacteria.
anything where you don't need a thesaurus to fucking read shit. Let's keep it nice and simple for people like me.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
no, I don't know them big long words.
It's okay. We'll crack out I'll send you a copy of Gray's Medical Anatomy. You'll love
Don't.
it. Pictures
Yeah,
and
don't.
everything. Don't.
You could send us the box
Alex,
set.
real quick before we move on, this week I've been teaching my kids, their fun fact was Tritoma sanguisuga, so I was teaching them about Chagas disease and transmission of that.
Oh, so the funny thing is, it's Chagas disease, which is a form of sleeping sickness, isn't it? Is transmitted primarily by these hymenopteran bugs, which are called kissing bugs. So you have a really unfortunately named disease being transmitted by an animal which has a very lovey-dovey name to it, which is
well. So if you're
awful.
not familiar, they actually, when they're kissing, when they're sucking your blood, they're defecating on you simultaneously. So then you itch the trypanosoma cruzi, the worm, into your skin, and that's when you get Chagas disease.
Lovely.
Yeah, sorry.
Where are you going on holiday this year, Sean?
No,
Back to the Hebrides.
No, I'm just gonna sit in my bedroom on
it. Just in a pillow fort, just surrounded by bottles of Raid.
in a bubble.
Just
In a bubble.
in a bubble. Oh, I love it. I love talking about bugs for two reasons. Number one, they really fascinate me, and number two, I absolutely love Sean's facial expressions. Just
Oh, they're just dirty, aren't they? They're just dirty, aren't they? They're just fucking dirty. I just hate dealing with them, you know, on a day-to-day
They'll be
basis.
here way
They're
long
not
after
like-
us, Sean. They were here before us. They'll be here way long after us.
Yeah, but I bet you I'll kill a lot more them than they'll kill me.
Just that's it. That's the metric, isn't it? When you reach those pearly gates, you're just going to have a tally score, aren't you? Them, 26 million.
Well,
me, 1.
Yeah.
The scary part is that I found this Tritoma sanguisuga in my bedroom here in Hawaii.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay,
Yep.
that's Hawaii off the list of places I'm visiting. I think we've actually scared Sean away. He's just got up and left. He's just gone.
No, I tell you, no, believe it or not, folks. Come on, son. This is you're allowed in. Come on. This is the first time I've done the podcast at home with the children and the missus and the dog here. And earlier on, I could hear a 2-year-old bouncing the living room door around. I was singing, "Oh no!" I've had a word with them before we started and said, "Please give us an hour." To which they both had a little bit of a sort of smiley face on them, and obviously he's had enough as well. He's had enough as well. I heard him at the door and I thought, yeah, he's sick of them. He wants to come and sit up. Yeah, come on in there.
Oh, mine's in the cage. Otherwise, she would be all over us too.
Oh, mine are just asleep on my feet. You gotta love those. Yeah. Right. Away from all this. Adam, so of course you went through that. You've got this foundational knowledge and this very broad knowledge of the entire industry, you know, from servicing tech to surveyor to working with a myriad of different companies. So then how did you find yourself? What drew you to pest management first? I mean, let's go before that, because pest management, you have to admit, it's such a weird industry, and it's one of those that you are either never in or you're in it for life. There doesn't seem to be any other option. You know, it's 5 minutes or forever. So how did you find yourself in pest management? What was the draw to get into this fabulous industry?
You know, I grew up on a small farm in Florida. I say small, 9 acres. So, and I had every single animal you could think of: goats, chickens, cows, pigs, peacocks, you know, rabbits. We had it all. And I remember back in the day when my dad would actually, he would tag the turkeys. He'd, pick the turkeys up and tag them, right? And then when he would take the turkeys off of his body, I'd see all the little like ectoparasites crawling on his shirt. So I'd be like, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? And I kind of just got like fascinated with him. Sean's looking at me like, you're the weirdest person ever. I know. So, but fast
Probably the
forward,
second weirdest
really,
person he knows.
right?
No,
Fast
I
forward
tell
to
you
high
what's making us
school.
giggle. You like this, Adam? I had chickens when I was a kid. We had an allotment. We had chickens. And I remember one of them died. So I picked it up by the legs and as we were walking it out, I've seen the mites go up onto my hand. So I just went to my pal, yeah, hold that. Give it to him. Just as fast as I could. That was like my interaction with mites and chickens. I want nothing to do with it.
Oh my gosh. You're a hoot, Sean.
Like,
Oh my
what is
gosh.
that? What is that? I was like, get me out of here.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so fast forward to high school, I was dual enrolled with high school and college, and I got stuck in the standard level zoology class. I was hating it. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so easy. And lo and behold, my teacher forced me to do an insect collection where I had to like collect them, taxonomically identify them, curate them. And that's where my passion started. So I thought I was going to be a vet. So I changed my major to entomology pre-vet. And then I went through college all through entomology. And then I applied and got accepted to vet school and decided I didn't want to go to vet school. So I just changed over to entomology and master's. And then oddly enough, I just started working for Department of Agriculture back in Florida, and I was, quarantining odd things like the potpourri and Target when it had a beetle infestation. We had to like, quarantine them and like figure out what the beetle was and take everything off the shelf. And that just kind of started my journey into pest control. And fast forward 25 years, here I am.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so now you find yourself wearing two hats, really, isn't it? You're working for Pest Sense, but also working for yourself as a consultant.
Yes. And I'm teaching 8th grade science.
3 hats. There we go.
Yeah.
Man of many hats, like that very much. So I don't know. We'll come to the consultancy in a bit, but the science teacher, I want to ask a little bit about that because, quite frankly, every time I have a bad day and a bit of a wobble with pest management, and I think I can't do this anymore, I have this romantic notion that I'll just disappear off into the sunset and become the old, tweed jacket with leather elbows science teacher somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. That's my backup plan. I think I'll do all right with that. So what's teaching like? Is it everything it's cracked up to be, or is it just frankly terrifying?
It's pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. It's hit or miss. It's up and down, if I'm being honest. And if I were you, Alex, I would probably recommend teaching like a community college or something like that. I did that for 3 years as an adjunct professor and loved literally every second of it. You can still find me on ratemyprofessor.com. And yeah, I would definitely recommend that. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But teaching secondary education is not like it was when we were growing up. It just isn't. There's not the discipline. There's not the discipline we had like when we had growing up. There's not the it's very much like, I don't know how to explain it other than it's way more challenging than it used to be.
Okay. So sorry, guys and gals. It sounds like my backup plan's been absolutely torpedoed there. You're stuck with me for the foreseeable. No disappearing off into the future. Blame Adam that I've stuck around a little longer. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm really excited about this. And the reason we've got you on today, of course, is to talk about Pest Sense and to smart technology. So let's not, we'll come to Pest Sense in a bit, but give us your views. You've kind of heard the overview of Sean and I's views on smart technology. What's your views on, as it stands at the moment, and how you see it in the future? What is smart technology to you?
I mean, I definitely think it's the wave of the future. Whether you're hopping on one train or the other, I mean, there's a million different options, right? I mean, you guys probably know stuff that I don't even know of, but I mean, literally, I know there's Bell Sensing, there's InView has theirs, Active Sense sold theirs. I think Ecolab owns it now, so it's no longer available. We've got Pest Sense. I can't remember the other one I looked at the other day, but I'm sure there's probably a dozen different options, right?
Syngenta.
And so, I'm sorry?
Do you have Syngenta over there?
Yep, Syngenta. You're right. So there's Syngentas. Yeah. There's the one that
Signal.
What's his name is behind right now? Who's the big
Signal
rodent
still
guy?
going?
Bobby Corrigan. He's behind one right now.
Oh, I don't think he's behind it. He's advocating of the use of microsense or something like that, which is for anyone who's
Microshare, I
seen it,
think is
it
what it's
looks
called.
Microshare. There's a yes, absolutely.
Yep.
I knew that. Apologies to Microshare. I've spoken to them before. They're probably listening to this like, bastard. But their sensing device it's a little hockey puck almost sized sensing device, and it's a repurposed piece of technology from their greater range, which is actually washrooms and facilities management, isn't it? And I think this kind of falls into what Sean was saying, which is a lot of the technology that we're seeing at the moment, it's not specific to our industry. It has been repurposed from another industry and shoehorned to fit a bait box. So thoughts on that, both of you guys?
Yeah, I mean, and Sean, I don't know. I know you definitely, from what I gather, you're definitely not very pro some of the stuff, which is fair. I think, for me, at least, from everything I've touched and held and used and, been a part of, I definitely think that there's, like I said, if you're going to go out and obviously research a type of technology, I think your best thing to do is like, don't sit there and try to go to their websites. Give somebody like, Alex or Sean or me a call that we can basically walk you through some of these options, or watch these podcasts, right? Because there's LoRa-based technology where it's true 24/7 remote monitoring. And then there's something like Bell Sensing where, like Alex, like you said, you have to be within 100 feet of that Bluetooth technology to get that data, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's horses for courses.
This is probably the questions that you can answer, because this is one of the reasons that turned me off to it. We trialed it early on, and I've been reliably informed that the technology's got better. It seemed they sold the dream. It works like this. It does that. We ended up spending a lot of money on it to put it into a place where it didn't do what they said. It didn't go through the buildings, and then I was having to try and move boxes to a place where they could get signal rather than the place where they wanted to be. And it was like, and then I spoke to another firm, Green something or other. They were like, "Yeah, you can try ours for couple £100, and then you get a quote through, and it was like £3,000." And I'm like, so now, I was like, well, will it definitely work? And they're like, it's very likely it'll work. And it ended up in a position where I felt like I was paying to trial their products for them with no guarantees and no money back if they didn't. And then I was like, I don't know, I don't like this. I don't like it at all. And then when I started speaking to people, they were all of a similar sort of position, that the buildings basically made it difficult for a lot of these products to work.
Yeah, so Sean, I know you're referring to that structural interference, right? And so if you have a gateway that obviously all of your, PIR motion sensors or whatever your devices are daisy chained to or attached to, that structural interference is huge. And so, if I were selling any technology and I was talking to you, Sean, I would literally do a discovery type conversation to figure out what is the building you're trying to work on, where are you trying to set this up, so that I could come to you very knowledgeable and say, yes, this will work, or you're going to need 2 gateways, or you're going to need 3 gateways, right? I wouldn't sell you on failure. I would try to sell you on success at the end of the day. And so I think part of the challenge with some of the salespeople out there, no offense to them, is that a lot of them don't have the background in pest control. They don't have the background in some of the technology. So they're literally just selling you something based on what they've learned, from the company that's teaching them how to sell it, right? They don't know the. Go ahead, Alex. I know you're wanting to say something.
I mean, I'm desperate trying to, because that's exactly one of my big issues with smart technology, which is, especially with the low-RAN. I mean, low-RAN is a very smart way of doing things, but it's always sold as it has a functional range of thousands of meters, several kilometers. It doesn't. It has a functional range of that. If you are on a flat plane looking across the salt flats of the desert. And the other thing is I've spoken to a couple in the past. You can buy these low-RAN detector sensors. You can you press a button and it'll say, all right, you're picking up so many decibels. You need to have so many decibels in order for this to clearly function. And the salespeople, every time, do you know what they do? They say, right, and they'll walk around the site and they hold it and they press the button and they take a reading at this level, at chest level. Now, the thing is most of the obstructions on a site, most of the obstructions which are going to attenuate this signal, tables, chairs, water tanks, they all sit at hip level and below. So if you actually take this device and you put it on the floor, the attenuation drops straight through, just straight off. So there is definitely some flaws in the system. And as you say, people get missold things all the time, which is a real shame because the technology is good, but
Right.
the implementation of it can be limiting sometimes.
Yep.
I mean,
That's
sure, not
100%. So I feel like,
yeah.
Sean, you've unfortunately gotten the taste of the bad apple. And I mean, that's the downfall, is that, I
So,
think you just
so
need
that,
a
yeah,
taste of it.
I,
Go ahead.
yeah, I'm sure that it's got better. I'm absolutely positive it's got better. It was a number of years we tried it. But then my other worry and concern for it, and the reason why I say I think it's the mini disc to the CD type scenario, is we've got AI coming in, and when I look, I think a box was designed for bait as a general rule, and the attraction is in the bait. But now what they're trying to do, a lot of them, and I know you're different, is they're trying to basically incorporate in trapping. So they're trying to get rats into black boxes with traps, which is usually ineffective. And
Right.
again, I just feel like we're concentrating on one tiny little area on the site. What we did, we were looking at a particular site farm that we do, and I was absolutely convinced we were clear of rats, like clear. Didn't have one, couldn't get it. Like there was no signs of them, there was nothing. Anyone worth their salt would have said you're clear of rats. So I put a reeling camera up on one of the boxes, and I thought, let's see how long it takes for rats to move on and how fast I catch them when they move on. Were we for clear of rats? Those rats on, they run over the top of the box, they run round it. But not only did we get to see what was happening outside the box in terms of rat activity, we got to see what was happening. We've got pictures of sparrowhawks, of crows, corbies, all sorts running around this box. I just keep thinking to myself, the issue with boxes being so expensive is it's such a small market. There's a problem with scaling it, I guess. But when you look at like a Reolink camera that has a market in its own right, and the price of them is going to come down, when you combine that with AI, where you can drop a camera on a huge area in comparison and see exactly what's going on and present it. And the AI will say, that's a sparrowhawk, that's a mouse, that's a this, that's a that. It'll do it all for you. I feel like what's going to happen is someone's going to come along with some sort of camera app that's just going to gazump the black box job. That's what I think's going to happen.
I think that that's a good possibility. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think that's going to be further down the road, though. I only say that because even AI now, ChatGPT, any of these, I mean, it's all what people put into the internet, right? I mean, literally, AI is what people have made it to be. And so if you go to do ChatGPT, you still have to fact check anything you take out of ChatGPT, right? Because there's
Yeah.
a chance it could be misinformation, right?
Yeah.
And to give you an example, you go on the internet right now and you type in a certain type of bug. You guys know you could find a million different pictures that's claiming that it's this bug, right? There's even been times where I've typed in a scientific name, and Alex has probably seen this too, where it's not the right bug that they're saying it is. And so there's just like there's the reality that everything that's gone into the internet is stuff we've all put into the internet. But I think what's even more important, if this is okay, is this is probably a good time for us to talk about Bluetooth versus lure-based technology,
Yeah. Go
right?
on.
Yeah.
And what the options are. And so with something like Bell Sensing that's Bluetooth, and I only refer back to that because, like I told you guys, previously, when I was with Advanced IPM before I left, I had installed around 5,000 devices, and so that was anything from their their Evo rodent base station to their what do you call it, their 24/7 trapper, aka their tin cat, and or their snap trap. And so I had installed all of those. And so again, like Alex said, with the Bluetooth technology with Bell Sensing, you can only get that data when you're on site and you're within 100 feet of the Bluetooth technology, right? And you're on some sort of like Wi-Fi or data. It's great, right? It's awesome in what it gives you. However, if you want to look at something like the option of like Pest Sense, where it's lure-based 24/7, true remote monitoring, we can all get it right here, right now, while we're sitting right here where we are, right? And then something like Pest Sense, which is I know Alex can vouch for this as well. I don't know of any technology out there right now that has the ability to actually give you the bait consumption. I don't know of any other ones. Maybe Alex.
There is technology coming up behind. There is a couple of devices. I don't believe that there are any commercial devices able to do that at the moment. I believe Pest Sense is the only one that has a distribution chain, but there certainly are others coming up behind that can do this. But that's a really interesting, and to my mind, it's this part of the smart technology that gets me so excitable.
Well, yeah.
But very
And the
quickly,
bait,
yeah.
real quick, sorry, the bait consumption and why, to me, why it's so important is we're talking about SGAR bands and FGAR bands and all these different bands going on. We can now use this bait consumption technology to put in non-tox bait, like Prelantra, and then go off and replace it with Cilantro, right? When we want to put in the tox bait. I know you're smiling because of all the lovely BASF products.
No, do you know what it is?
I'm smiling because.
Go on.
Oh, you still there? I was about to say, no, I'm laughing because Cilantro is the US version of monitoring paste. And I smile because I actually think it's a really great name because it's Prelantra, because you use it before Cilantro. I think we've really missed out in Europe.
We call it
by
that?
calling it monitoring paste. Do you call
Honestly,
it that?
we call it that. Yeah, Hugh told us about it. And since then, we call it Prelon. So it's not called that in this country because then we just know. So, yeah. But it's funny you say that, Adam, because I think you'll both like this. I was talking to Mick Taylor, who was SASA, the Scottish rodenticide version of whatever it is. What's the Scottish version of Al?
I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're getting at there.
So they do like the testing for it's not RAG, but they do the testing on animals. Yeah, no. You know who are testing the barn owls in this country? The Scottish guys. It's their version of it.
Oh, it was AFA. It's now SASA. It was Reading, then SASA. AFA, now SASA. Yeah. I
was talking to Mick Taylor, who's left them, and he asked a very sensible question. I thought it's fucking brilliant. He said, does anyone ever look at when they talk about resistance? He said, does anybody ever look at how much those rats are eating? Like, does anybody ever teach a pest controller how to estimate the size of the population and have a good idea of what they should be eating before, and should they do they keep a record of what is picked up at the end of it? And he's like, because really, unless you're going to do that, all the rest of it is a waste of time, isn't it? Like when we do testing for rodenticides, we chop the tail off and go, yeah, it's rodenticide resistant. But do they also check those rats to see, are they loaded with rodenticide, and are they actually putting a hell of a lot more into the? And he was saying that there's so much more work needs to be done on it. And you're like, yeah, like, because I trust you. If you went with 99.9% of pest controllers in this country and you tipped up and you said to them, what's the size of the problem here and how do you know that? It'd be, I think there might be just experience, but they don't use any telltales. There's no, and I was like, that's so right, isn't it?
My entire presentation that you missed because you were off at the MPTA was all on that. Literally, the entire presentation was on estimating population, because it's not just population size, because population size is I've got a lot of rats, I've not got a lot of rats, there's 50 rats on this site. What we need to do is it's population size, density and distribution, and then you need to understand where you're baiting accordingly. I have been banging this drum, and please, people in the comments, because no word of a lie, for a decade, banging this drum that's knowledge is power, and the more information you can generate on a site, the more effective your control strategy is going to be, the less impact it's going to have. And again, this is why I'm so passionate about this future of smart technology, because Adam's just about to tell us this is exactly what you can do with smart technology, isn't it?
Yes, you definitely can. You can, kind of going back to Pest Sense and what you can do. The measuring the bait consumption is, again, to me, it's such a it gives you so much information, right? When you can measure that bait consumption of the rodents. And then another beautiful thing about the predictor with Pest Sense is that you can also get the data of which side of the bait station they enter, right? I mean, that's got power as well to know, like, actually which side of the actual station they enter, so we can know what's going on. And then there's a beauty in the fact that, like, I'm just kind of talking about some of the cool options of Pest Sense as well. As I don't know of many base stations that you can actually stand vertically, right? And maybe you guys can tell me otherwise, but I'm like, I know Bell Sensing you can't stand vertically. I know a lot of the other ones you can't stand vertically, but the predictor is built to literally stand vertically. So in a commercial, atmosphere, we can now avoid that truck backing up, and potentially, offloading and hitting that actual base station. That's kind of a cool feature as well. And then another thing that I want people to make sure they're very aware of, and I don't know of any other technology that does this, but you can add all of your non-smart devices to the Pest Sense software. So like with Bell Sensing, you can only add Bell Sensing devices. With InView, you can only add their devices. But with Pest Sense, you can add all of your non-smart devices to the software.
No, give us just record. We've carried on referencing Pest Sense and the predictor box, and I have some sight of it. Adam, you obviously have some sight of it. But everyone listening to this, because it's not commercially available in the UK yet, it's imminently coming out, I understand. So can you actually give us a full, give us a sales pitch, give us the full description of what this box is, what it does, why it's different from any other smart technology that we've had previously available at our disposal?
Yeah, again, for me, I think I have one I can grab. Do you want me to grab it to show you?
Oh, run quickly.
Yeah,
We will
I'll
time
grab it
you.
real quick.
There's nothing like instilling a sense of absolute panic in a guest, is there?
That top is exactly what I would imagine Adam's shirt to be like. It's like just, that plant in the background, sorry. Like if you could turn it into a shirt, that would be his shirt, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yes. For those who are listening back as opposed to watching, Adam has this fantastic fluorescent
All
light.
Hawaiian,
Yeah.
What are you talking about? My light?
Your light back there, yes, absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah.
my lovely floor light. So here's the predictor box, right? And so here's sorry, let me turn it the other way. Here's your entrances. All right. So again, you can set this vertically. All right. And you've got basically the left, the right entrance. And that's obviously some data you can get, which is obviously amazing. Opening the box for you now. And then it's a little dirty because it's been outside, but this is the box here. And so, like I said, it's dirty, but it's been outside. But you can see here the internal components. I don't have the rod in here right now because I didn't have any bait on here, but this piece comes out as well, which is awesome. So this technology can now go into any type of wall void, drop ceiling like you talked about. It comes out on its own. The rod actually fits inside of these components right here. And so it's got the dual functionality of the bait and then the snap trap you can put in here as well, and it fits in here.
Oh, with that, yeah. If you put a snap trap in there, you can just put any standard snap trap in there, and as soon as that trap goes off, it sets off the accelerometers and gives you a reading as if it was a smart.
Hold that up again. Hold that up again.
You can hold it up again, Adam.
Oh, yeah.
Hold it up again. Sorry. Okay. This is the internal component.
That's the smartest thing I've seen in a box yet, that you can turn it into a tray. Because one of the hardest things in the world
it comes with an additional lid.
Into a box, isn't it?
It does.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like,
so,
if you're going into a wall, you're absolutely right. If you're going into a ceiling void, the ability to put that into a ceiling void on a domestic job is a brilliant thing to have, because they will happily jump on top of that and jump into it and feed from it far easier than they would if you had a lid on it. I know for a fact they would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Sean, you could add the lid or you could not add the lid, whichever direction you want to go with that.
Yeah.
So Adam, when that rod's on there, talk us through. So you'll put, let's say, 100 grams of non-toxic bait on that rod. What happens next?
So you're going to put 100 grams of the non-toxic bait on that rod. You're going to put the, go back over here. You're going to basically place the rod in, and then once you put it into the bait mode, you essentially are just going to put it back in the, let's just say we're going to put it back in the box now. Sorry. We'll put it back in the box. Getting it in here for you. I was not prepared for this, so sorry.
It's okay.
Put it back in the box. We would close our lid if we wanted this exterior, and then obviously we could place it flat again, or we could place it vertically. All right, and then essentially once it's set and you've done everything in the app, and then you are going to just let it sit there and do its job. And so as rodents come in and they feed on the bait, you're going to basically be able to go to the software platform and you're going to be able to see how much bait's actually being consumed by the second, literally. And so that bait consumption, again, percentage is going to be crucial to let you know, how much is there? How often do I need to go back to change it, right? Now I'm not necessarily having to go every visit, or on the structured visits. I can now monitor all of that remotely, and I can now have an idea of like what's going on. Is there hotspot activity? Is there one that's having this bait consumption versus another? And the beauty of, again, that left versus right entrance is going to let us know where they're coming from. Gives us more, like you said, knowledge is power. So more knowledge at the end of the day.
Yeah. And as Terry says, this is why you're a big fan of pre-baiting at the end of the day, because you can put your non-toxic monitor in there, you're lowering the risk to the environment, and you can see that. And from having so full disclosure, I've had a play with some of these boxes before, and I know for a fact that when you put it in there, number one, the reading, how many times the animals are in, the time it takes them to cross those infrared sensors is recorded. So, of course, a big-bodied animal like a rat is going to spend longer going past those sensors. A smaller-bodied animal like a mouse is going to spend less time going past those sensors. As it eats, of course, it's giving you a real-time consumption. So if you've only lost half a gram to a gram, highly likely it's going to be a mouse. If you're losing 3 to 6 grams, it's going to be a rat. So you get an idea of species before you come in as well. So if you've got a lot of external boxes and there's some wood mouse activity, but you're really worried about the rats, if you're losing half a gram at a time or a gram at a time, no need to rush back immediately. But if you start to see sort of like big chunks going, then that completely changes your viewpoint on it. And this is the exciting bit. So, I mean, before we probe Adam for more questions, Sean, the smart technology cynic here, what's your thoughts on this?
I like it. The first thing I noticed when he lifted it up, I could see straight through it. When you put a snap trap into a black box, and nobody does it, if you lift it up and look at it, you can see it's almost obscuring the rat's way through. That's why I think we don't catch a lot in it. And if you're a rat and you run along, you go, well, I can go through there, which is difficult and harder. I can just hop over the top of it. So I think you have to keep that channel open. As soon as you put a snapback trap in there or what have you, I believe that's why it makes it incredibly difficult to catch them. So I like that clear view. I also like the ability to put it in the loft as an open tray. That would be useful. The one thing I would love to see from anything like that is an ability for it to be moved from site to site easily and change from Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. And I've said this all along. If smart traps or smart boxes become useful, it'll be through the domestic market, not through us, because their domestic market is so much larger. If you had a trap, little mouse traps, snapback traps, but connected, where you could literally walk into a house, put them in, jump onto their Wi-Fi, because everyone's got it now, safe and secure. So it's like, don't disappear off, and you know where it is and how to use it, and you can literally just move them around. They're too clunky at the minute to, you've got to put a modem in or a gateway or a this or a that. It immediately means that any domestic job is probably not going to be suitable, and that's a shame. Whereas I'm sure if they produced a mouse trap, a rat trap, that on the box it said, will tell you when it's been set off, and it's 20 quid, 25 quid rather than 7 quid, people will buy it. And the domestic market is what will get us to where we want to be. Same with the bait box. This bait box is going to tell you when rats have eaten that bait. Someone puts it behind his shed and then he gets an activation in 3 weeks' time and he goes, oh, bloody hell, that works. That was great. People will buy it, but I think we're making it a little bit too difficult at the minute. And I know everyone's going to go, we do want the amateurs to get it. If you think that's going to fucking put you out of business, you shouldn't have been in business. Do you know what I mean? It is not the box that's doing the job. It's you. It's just a tool. If giving amateurs traps and boxes would put us out of business, we'd be out of business because they've got the ones we've got now. So I think we need to do the domestic market with these in order to get us to where we want to be with them. Thoughts?
No, I don't
Alex
disagree.
has been on the piss. Alex, you've been drinking, son.
So, Sean, you bring up a good point, though, and I want to make sure everybody understands is that there's a lot more tech. I'm saying this as respectfully as possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot more technology in this than there is in a bell sensing device, right? And it's not to down the bell sensing device. It's just the reality, right? And so people need to understand if there's more technology in something, it's probably going to cost more money than the bell sensing device that has less technology.
Yeah. But
okay.
Here's
Can I
the
share
question:
something
is it
with you
needed?
guys?
Is it needed?
This is
I think,
the
Sean,
bit that I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, Adam, please give us your views.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, I agree with you, Sean. Is it needed? That's a great question. And I think that's always the question is it needed? Where is it needed? Where's it going to fit best? I mean, I see something like the predictor being very good in the commercial atmosphere, right? I don't know if it's necessary for the residential atmosphere, only because customers don't want to pay a ton of money for that, right? They want to pay minimal money and they want maximum control, right? Where in the commercial atmosphere, food handling facilities, food manufacturing facilities, restaurant, hospitals, sensitive accounts, they need it. They have to have it, right? It's not a choice. It's just a matter of what is going to be the best thing that's suitable for them. And so I agree with you there. Alex?
I do
Oh,
wonder.
Or Sean, sorry.
I do wonder if, and this is the old reverse engineering thing, isn't it? If a lot of the technology that we are getting, it's being designed from people and input from people on the large commercial side of things. So they are, yeah, I'm just going to say it's stuck in the mud with what they do. They make money out of boxes, so they've designed a box. They do it this way, so we'll do it that way. And it's that old, you know, I honestly believe, hand on my heart, that Reolink camera equivalent with the AI in, if you can put that report together with the pictures of the stuff on, whether you are a domestic customer or a commercial customer, they will eat that up. How did you know? And you present that to the manager who cares about green credentials, and you go, yeah, well, we've got so much bait eating, but on this one here, seen the picture, the sparrowhawk and the crow, and the during the night there was two hedgehogs went past, and there was this and that, blah blah blah. So what we've done is we've done this, we've taken it into account, and we've moved to this, da 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 da. And someone goes, oh yeah, we know, we've got the best of the best, and we know that they ate 50 grams of bait in two weeks, and you're like, ah. And I think that technology is going to move too fast, and I think the black boxes are going to not die a death, but I think the camera will win. And I think techs will support the cameras more than they'll support the boxes. There's a point at the top here. I can't remember who was who put it. Let's have a look.
While you find the point, let me just
Yeah.
sort of like,
Go
so
ahead,
I
Alex.
wrote, yeah, I wrote a open paper and I circulated it online, and some people picked it up and some people missed it. But basically, the outline of it is we need to stop referring to smart technology as smart technology, because actually it's a lot of different things that do a lot of different things. So if you would, with your imagination brushes, please join me on a little journey. Draw for me an axis in your mind, and going up on the left hand side, you've got an increase in reaction time. So at the bottom you've got the word information, and then you've got control, and going along the bottom you have activity and discrimination. So you've got 4 boxes in here. You have smart technology that can generate information about activity. That will be things like your Bell Sense box. I have had something in my box. I can't tell you what it is, and I can't tell you what it's done. It's just been something in there. You then have information which is able to discriminate what that animal is. That's your Reolink camera. I can give you information. There is a rat, there's a mouse, there's a crow, there's a sparrow. On the other side, you have control and activity. So that's things like your smart snap traps. I have activity. I have caught something, I have killed it, but I can't tell you what it is. I can simply just say I've caught and killed something. It could be a mouse, it could be a rat, it could be a squirrel. Okay. And then you have the top tier of that, which is, devices are able to control and to discriminate what they've controlled at the same time. And that's kind of what we're talking about with Pest Sense there. But the point is each one of those quadrants has a very specific use and tool. You might think, why would you get something that just generates information about activity? What's the point in that? Well, if you're looking in a void space of a food factory, any activity up there is bad news. So it doesn't need to tell you what it is, just that there's something going on. Sean, big advocate of the information that can discriminate your cameras, your traps, that can provide a lot of information to the professional as to what you're doing. Control and activity, that's probably where your home and garden markets sit. Those animal, that trap's gone off in my attic, now to go and recover it from behind the Christmas decorations. So there we go. Adam, please, that's just me with my thoughts.
No, all great stuff. I just thought of something that I think is just I want to, if you're on the show right now and you're a pest control owner, the word liability comes to mind for me right now. And why does that come to my mind? Because imagine you have a residential account where you could, let's just use Bell Sensing Snap Trap, right? I can put that up on the drop ceiling, and now when my technician drives up, let's just say Miss Jones isn't home, they can still get that information, right? If they're 100 feet within that, Bluetooth technology. Number one. Number two, you have them going up and down a ladder less. You have them bending down and checking stations less. So liability, saving their knees, keeping your technicians around for longevity. So I just want you to think about that kind of stuff.
See, this is the other thing. I just don't see that, because they say, oh yeah, you don't have to go to site as much because but that's if we're only going to site to check the bait that's in the box. But often we're going to see if something's been put on top of it, if it's been moved, if there's a problem with it, if little boy's kicking the door again. So there's that side of it. But Jason's put a thing on here. So a couple of pesties was saying if you have small boxes with traps, then you don't need a lot of technicians going around checking boxes. You'll only look at a computer and see what traps have gone off and where. But it's just so wrong, isn't it?
No, that's not the point of it at all. The point of it is just to give you more information, because the knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to decrease necessarily going. You are going to decrease maybe, having to go. It all depends on the situation. I know Alex can agree with me on this. It's all based on the scenario, the customer, their needs. There's just so much that goes into, this whole thing. But going there less is not necessarily the point. But going to a food manufacturing facility where you have 500 exterior rodent base stations and you're using something like Pest Sense or Bell Sensing, now I can just walk around and get that data. Maybe I'm not having to bend up and down as much. I'm not having to do this stuff where I'm like killing myself. I can go focus on the hotspot activity. I can go focus on where the issues are. And I can actually, this is a great opportunity for a pest control owner to increase sales and revenue for your company, because now you're focusing on the hotspot activity, and you're then going to be able to add more devices, add more stuff, work on different things.
I mean, and
it gives you more time to
fundamentally agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Exactly that. Pest control happens in the spaces between the boxes at the end of the day. And if you are selling, and I won't mention names or throw anyone else, but there was a couple of big advert campaigns in the States last year saying that smart technology will reduce labor costs because you don't have to go out as much. And I think that is a fundamental missell of smart technology. What smart technology does, as you said there, and as Hugh says there, it means if you've got a complex site with a lot of boxes, you don't have to spend all the time rushing opening up every box, because you know that that box has a high likelihood or a low likelihood that it's had anything happen. You can spend more time doing your job, doing your investigation, doing your survey, rather than being a box kicker. And wow, there we go.
Agreed.
Yeah. So Sean,
It'll be, I don't know, I just think it'll be interesting to see where it ends up in the next 5 to 10 years. I just feel like the camera thing, I think what firms are forgetting is they are forgetting to get the techs on board with it properly. Because I don't know, I'm thinking of a situation where, as a general rule, I think a good technician wants to look professional, he wants to do well, he wants to be better than the rest. So giving them that those extra images that he can add to his report, that extra thing where you can say, we had this technology, we had this, we've seen this, those hedgehogs, so we've done this, we've done that, and he can explain it to it, and he really used it to support him. Whereas with a box, there is still this belief from technicians that this is your replacement, son. And I don't think the technicians are getting on board with it for that reason. And until the technicians get on board with it, I think you'll really struggle with it. But also, I think from a business owner's point of view, when I think about the videos, I think it's far easier to sell, upsell, and increase the costs with the video evidence than it is with the box evidence. Because when I sell them the box, it's like, I might not have to come regular, we can bring this down, we can give you that value for money, because this is where the conversation with the video, we give them a value of service rather than a value of money.
Yeah, I mean, I think my only kickback to that, Sean, is that, and I agree, I hear what you're saying. I just see that, I feel like the camera technology is just going to be expensive, won't it?
think it's going to be cheaper. What's a Reolink now? 160 quid, 140 quid, 120 quid for a camera. When it's bought, move it from site. You can move it. You could chuck them round. That AI will be incorporated into it cheap. I don't know what, I think it'll come. I really think it'll come.
I think it'll have its place for sure. I don't know if it'll be on the commercial side or the residential side. I don't know where, but I think, my concern is still the camera's not going to have that ability to measure the bait consumption, right? And so I feel like there's still going to at least be a place for this guy for sure.
I think, I just want to clarify. I don't think it is and Alex said this, I don't think it is the answer, but I think it'll become more of a part of it. Yeah, I think it'll be more reliant. And and I do believe it's getting the techs on board and the techs to support it, because it's I find, and I'm sure everyone probably finds it's easier to sell something you believe in, that you see the positives too. Whereas if you're sort of trying to sell something because of whatever, because of monetary values, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit more difficult. So you've got to believe in it wholeheartedly, and I just feel like techs don't fully believe in it. Some of them will, but as a general rule, it's like, that's my replacement. That's my replacement. If we keep going, that's my replacement. Anyone can come out and put a box every 10 meters, and the boxes are going to do it. Like, it's taken my skill away. That's how I feel like it's being perceived from the technicians at the moment.
I would disagree, but that's okay. Go ahead, Alex.
No. I will follow mine up with yours. If you've got a counter to that, please tell us.
I mean, my counter, I think, is what I said before. I mean, I think, Sean, it's all about, as a pest control owner, if I'm training my technicians to sell this product correctly and understand that if they're selling the technology and then they can go and focus on the hotspot activity, which means they can then increase sales and revenue for the company, they can take that commission from the sales. They can essentially make more money by utilizing the technology. And so it's just about knowledge is power, and helping them to understand how to take the technology, sell the technology, and then go and utilize all of the information from the technology to then increase the profit and sales and revenue for the company.
I do wonder if there is a difference, and maybe this is why it's being picked up more in America than here, in the way commission is done. We've tried commission and it does work to a degree, but then when you hear the way the big guys are doing commission over here, I don't know how any of their techs make commission. So my understanding in this country, and I don't know what it's like over there, is what they'll do is they'll say to you, yeah, we'll give you 7% on what you sell, which sounds great, but then they have to have done their 8 or 10 visits daily. Otherwise, it gets dropped. I think they've got to do 10 visits daily as an average. If it drops below that, they get 70%. If it drops below 8 visits, they get nothing on their commission. So how can you ask someone to go out and this is a whole separate thing. I don't know how it works with commission over there, but I was talking to some of the lads about it, and I was thinking, you've got a hard job to sell.
Is 7% commission the standard in the UK, or is that just with the company you're with?
No, that everyone I speak to, most of the big ones are on 7%, and then if you don't get your 10, it drops to 70% of your commission. So I don't know what that's probably going to come in about 5, isn't it? And if you drop below your 8, you get 0. You don't get anything because you're deemed to not be that productive. So maybe that's part of the problem with the selling side of it over here.
So here in the States, here in the mainland, they changed a lot. Like especially in California, you can no longer do like commission-based technicians. They have to be on hourly rate, and then they make commission on top of their hourly rate. And so there is no draw. I think you're talking about like a draw, right?
So no, they're all on an hourly rate, and then they'll get commission on sales that they make. And I was thinking that's fine, but in order to sell something, you have to spend some time with your customer, don't you? So if you're on 10 visits a day at like 20 minutes a visit, who the fuck do you sell them a $3,000 system? Do you know what I mean? And if you do, then all of a sudden you drop below your 10, and they go, by the way, we're taking that off you. And I was thinking, this is, it seems to me in this country that the sales that people get are sales that they would have got without the commission. It's just like, it's a desperate, but I've never been in that sphere, so I don't know, and I might be talking out of turn. This is just what I've heard from speaking to people. So it may be that That's why
I
you
know
are getting better
when I worked for
sales.
Terminex here a decade ago, we had residential technicians, bear in mind, that they didn't even necessarily upsell. They would just give the leads to the sales guy, right? And they were making 80 to 100 grand a year, a residential technician.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this is where we're probably, you know, and I know we're going down a rabbit hole and off on a tangent, but we had this conversation. Who was it we had the conversation with where they're talking about licensing? Was it Andy from Perimatech?
It's
Where you were saying,
Andy
yeah, it
from
was,
Coast to
wasn't
Coast podcast from Andy Primatech. Who's actually
Yeah, that's
listening
Andy.
tonight. Yeah, he dropped a column early on, so come on, Andy. Say hello to everyone. But while Sean's disappearing off, I'll save the second bit because I'm excited. I'm so excited I've written it on the board. But to tell everyone a little bit of a story about the power of data and the money of data, I went to a facilities management show a couple of years back. And whilst I was there, the person on the table next to me was selling a little black box about this big. And what it did is it measured, there we go. Hi, Andy, there we go. It measured the carbon dioxide in the room, and he sold this to offices. And basically, this little box measured the carbon dioxide in the room, and when the carbon dioxide got too high, it opened a window or closed a window. I said, "What's the point in this?" And he said, "Well, people who, office environments that are very muggy, people work less in them. So we have this." And I was like, "Does it always open a window?" And he's like, "No, sometimes it just goes off with a little peep." I was like, "So what stops people from getting up and going to a window and opening it?" Absolutely nothing stops people from doing that. So I was like, "How many of these have you sold? This little box that just measures people's breath?" He said, "Last year alone, I sold, I turned over at least £1 million profit with this." And it's because
Wow.
facilities management, office environments, facilities management, they love data. They like to capture that data. They like to be able to show that this box has not had to open any windows because actually their air filtration system is A1 tier, and they're willing to buy a box to prove that. You've got to remember that with smart technology, you can now suddenly start to sell the number 0. Because beforehand, you were saying, no activity sounds like a failure. But with smart technology, you can say we've monitored 24/7 and we are confirming that your area is secure, ma'am. You can suddenly start to sell the flip side of that argument. And this brings me on to my second point. Now, Sean's back. We talk about IPM. We've had IPM. It's been bastardized from agriculture. I'm starting to talk a lot now about IRM, integrated risk management. But hang on, should the future not be ISM, integrated smart technology, or IST, integrated smart technology, ISM, integrated smart management? Because as we've seen here, it's not just a case of one tool, there's no silver bullet. There are certainly devices out there, like the Pest Sense device, that will do a broad range of things, but it can't see the rat running next to the box. You've got your Reolink camera that can watch them bounce all over the attic space, but it can't physically do anything about them. So should we not be having the conversation? It shouldn't be an either or situation, should it? It should be what's going to be the most effective pairings of smart technology to get the most value out of this.
Well, and can't
Is that not the
IPM
real
literally be
conversation?
all of those encompassed, Alex?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
IPM can be your smart technology, your whatever you want. All your different things together can become part of your IPM program.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you call it ISM because you specifically focus on the elements of smart technology that can be used together.
Gotcha.
So ISM, the new breed, the new line. Sean,
new
I know
evolution.
that face. You are having a thought right now.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, you're right. I think we are in a very interesting point in time where technology has moved so fast, so quickly. Like it or not, we've been caught as an industry of being caught behind the curve. But it's going to hit us at a rate of knots. And I can only see whatever happens, whichever way it goes, and everything that we do, I think will help show that the pest controller is a professional rather than someone who just puts down a box. Whether it goes down the box, whether it goes down the camera, I don't think it makes a difference. The fact that as an industry, we are going to start recording, recovering, and using data far better from domestic all the way through. Because beforehand, what was your recording of data and your recovering? Have you heard any more noises this week? Like, no. Like, oh, that's fucking brilliant then, isn't it? If you're lucky, you might have wrote it on a treatment report. That was probably the extent of what we're doing. But now, because apps and technology is coming along in such a leaps and bounds faster than anyone could have dreamt possible, we're in a position where that data capture is almost being forced upon us, and it's going to get easier and easier. And then we're off to the races. Then we start to see. And if the domestic market does get hold of this, I think it'll really be a massive help to us, because it'll show what we are good at and what they're not. I really do.
Yeah.
Adam, there's a question here, or more of a statement from Sean, and I'd like to just flag it up because I'd love to hear your opinion on this, and actually Sean's as well. So Sean Taylor says, 5 to 10 years, scary where technology will be. I'm a big fan of boots on the ground, but if people don't get on board, they're going to be left behind. And this is the bit that I think we need to have a bit of a discussion, which is selling is an art, and you can't always expect the technician to know how to upsell. So
100%. Yeah. We kind of just talked about that earlier. I mean, you need to either, as a PCO owner, learn how to do that, or bring somebody in like myself or Alex or Sean, somebody that can come in and teach your technicians how to, better gain that skill set and learn how to sell it, right? But knowledge is power. So part of that is going to be training them on the product, training them on how to sell it, training them on, how to utilize all that information. And so again, I mean, I definitely agree with what Sean's saying. And so, I mean, selling is an art, but it's also, it can be learned, right? Personality cannot be learned, but selling can be learned, right? Anybody can learn how to sell something. They just have to, go ahead. Sorry.
I was about to say, but do you see smart technology? So, and we're here to talk about Pest Sense. Do you see Pest Sense as being a gateway to be able to allow people a more effective upsell of their services?
I mean, it's not only in the UK right now, but it's in the US. We're seeing this strong trend and a strong push for the SGAR and the FGAR bans. We're seeing these rodenticide bans come in all the way to the EPA level, especially in the US. And so I know you guys have already had, I think, glue board bans in the UK. You've had some of these different, FGAR and SGAR bans. And so Pest Sense is going to help you with that, because again, there's no other technology out there right now where you can actually get that bait consumption measurement, right? And have that technology. So the ability to be able to utilize the non-tox bait, which is half the time is probably cheaper than your regular tox bait, right? And so the ability to be able to, utilize that non-tox bait to then be able to replace it with a tox bait based on those different feeding, measurements that you get. And like you said, Alex, whether you're getting the larger rodent or the smaller mouse that's coming in and feeding, being able to take all that data is going to be crucial. And so I definitely see Pest Sense as a very strong, component and a very strong runner in the industry for sure. Because again, I don't know of any other technology that actually measures the bait consumption.
There's so many things you can do with that, just not just from data generation, but from actual technical efficacy. It's really quite exciting. Sean?
Yeah, no, I think I absolutely agree with you. And I think the data side of it is something that we need to get techs on board with. I think once they're on board with the data and they understand how the data makes them better at their jobs, then what will happen is the best technicians, as usual, the cream will rise to the top and they will drag the rest with them. Once that happens and they start selling selling the products because they believe in them, because they make them better, then they will be adopted. But at the minute, I feel like they're not fully getting behind it because they feel like they're trying to be replaced. The analogy I would use is it feels like these are the electronic checkouts at Tesco's, as they're at Walmart, whatever it is, where you can get rid of the lady on the counter because you just beep and do it yourself. That's how it's being put. Or it certainly feels like it's being put like that across at the minute. But I think we're in a very exciting time, and whatever happens, however it happens, it's going to move forward regardless. Sean Taylor said it. If you don't get on board now, you are getting left behind. Whatever it is, you've just got to do something, don't you?
I'm reading Andy's thing here.
I must say, Andy, so for those listening back on the podcast, Andy from Coast to Coast podcast, Primatech in the US, has said in 10 years' time, in 10 years, tech jobs will be a site verification and a new position. So a new breed of pest manager will come out, which will be the pest management data analyst, and they will emerge. That's quite an exciting thing, isn't it?
I've got to be totally honest with you. I don't think that position's going to emerge. I really don't. I think that position is AI. I think AI.
Is it a position of AI?
AI will pick up all that data. It will tell you everything you want to know and everything that you hadn't even considered, and it'll start telling you shit that you hadn't even thought of. And I'm telling you now, when it hits us, it's going to hit us like a fucking ton of bricks. That's my thoughts.
I think, Sean, my rebuttal to you would be like, what is the accuracy of the AI? That's my concern.
Yeah, so I think the way it would work is you would put it into your system, and it would look at all your treatment reports. So it would work off your data, not the world data. You would keep it in your system, so Rental will be looking at their data. I think.
That's not true AI. That's machine learning. So that's like a recursive algorithm. It's building off a data set that you already have. And I do have to say, AI, there's some fundamental flaws. So AI hallucinates a lot at the moment. All of these, what we call large language models, hallucinate a lot because, and guys, look this up, there's a really terrifying thing at the moment. It's called the dead internet theory, where there's so much artificially generated content out on the internet that actually there is more content generated by these large language models than there is generated by human beings in the prime. And the large language models cannot distinguish between the two. So it basically ends up drawing down on false statements that it has previously made and published online. And if you want to see a really good example of this, go to Google right now on your phone and Google search the word baby peacock and look at the images. And over half of the images produced will be AI images. But then when you go and ask ChatGPT, or you ask Gemini, or ask any of these other deep thought processors, show me a baby peacock, it will pick probably one of these, and the more often it picks the AI generated, the more likely it's going to reinforce the fact that that is what a baby peacock looks like. So AI has a long way to go, but certainly what you say with like machine learning from internal data sets, that's going to be a phenomenally powerful tool. Absolutely.
But I guess though, doesn't it? I guess from your point of view, Adam, is that's got to be a good thing, isn't it? Because if you've got the vector for gaining information in whatever form it is that can be put in, because the harsh reality of it is there is no tech in this fucking world who's going to go around and measure and weigh how much bait has been eaten out of a box. It isn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It's either eaten in its entirety, 50% eaten, or not eaten at all, isn't it? Like, that's the harsh reality. If you have got that solution that says this was eaten from here, this was eaten from there, then that's all the data. And if you can put that into a system that looks at it, then all of a sudden, and you know how much your rat needs to be eaten, then things get interesting then, don't they? And I think Sean's point here, where is it? Could change the role and perception of a technician. I think it would be a lot easier to get graduates to come to our industry if you told them they were data analysts, than it would if you told them they were a pest technician. I think that's true. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge for me when I think of pest control for youngsters coming in is that, at least from my perspective, you're going to have some that they want it. It depends on which role you're going after, right? Commercial, or residential. Because when you think right now of residential, you think of, I've got to come and crawl in an attic. I've got to come and crawl in a crawl space, right? But we have technology that can even take that from your fingers, right? There's drones. There's even the drone cars. There's things you can run into attics and crawl spaces now. So I think with technology, definitely, and I even think there's companies that are investing in those types of technologies, right? To be able to bring in the youngsters and say, you don't have to go crawl in the attic anymore. You don't have to go crawl in the crawl space. You can take our technology, go use that, and go do, what do you call it? A crawl space with the with technology, and you can give them a subterranean termite estimate right then and there without even getting yourself dirty, right? And so I think the technology definitely can bring the youngsters in. I think it's just about, you're going to have to sell the youngsters on the technology and what they're going to be doing with the technology.
Yeah. And then 2 points together, I think this is fair. In a recent survey, AI pest control was one of the jobs deemed safe. And then Terry says, will will a pest management data analyst still kill a rat? And I think deep down, you can never get around the fact that as a society, we appear to be getting softer. There's less people willing to kill stuff. There's less people willing to use, even putting down poison, it's becoming less and less acceptable. There is definitely that niche for that bloke who has that ability in him, and there's no way of getting around it. Like, if you are that way inclined where you can go out and get that job done, I always feel like your job's going to be safe.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, there's always, always a room for people that can say, and I love this, I'm going to try and shoehorn this into almost every episode. Neem's wonderful quote of sending baby rats to, not baby, sending rats to Jesus. Yes, there's always going to be room for those that have the ability to do that in a swift, effective, and humane way. Ultimately, end of the day. God, we're coming right up actually to the 1 hour 30 mark, which is, I feel like we have so much more to discuss on this subject. I mean, genuinely, it's so huge, and as you said, the technology's out there. So very quickly, and there's two things. So number one, a question to you, and then number two, I want to see if you've got a question for us. Pest Sense, when will we be able to see this in the UK? When will we be able to get our hands on this? Because we've been talking about all of the benefits it can have. So when can we see this in the UK?
I think it's going to be very soon. I don't have that exact, moment in time, but I would just say if you guys want to reach out to me, my information, I'm sure Alex, you'll put my information up here on the podcast, or that it'll be accessible to them. So you guys can follow me on LinkedIn. You can reach out to me via email or however you want to, but anybody who's interested, just reach out and we'll get the ball, at least like the conversation's going, so we can, let people at least, I love to entertain the conversations and get the ball rolling at least with something, right? Because we are actually doing trials and we are doing that. And so, definitely open to conversations.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there more of a synergy, or could there be more of a synergy with calciferol rather than calciferol and alpha chlorelose more than escars? Because obviously those, if you do not get that lethal dosage into them in that short space of time, you get that beta version. So as we push away from escars, is this going to become more calciferol based, or in your testing have you not found that it's made a difference at all?
I'm honestly not sure. Maybe Alex can speak more on it.
On the situation, but certainly, all of those three groups of chemicals, so your AVKs, your calciferols, and your alpha chlorelose, you're going to be looking for very different data trends within that. So I imagine when you're using alpha chlorelose and cholecalciferol, for example, which will both benefit significantly from having a period of pre-baiting to get engagement and consumption high, you can actually see on that data when you have achieved peak engagement with your population. So then when you swap over to using your active materials, that's it, you are straight on it and you've got the maximum engagement possible. With things like your AVKs, you're probably looking for something a bit different. You're looking for engagement, but at the same time, you're looking for that engagement to drop off so you can then revert back to a monitoring program so your AVKs are out in the environment for as short a time as possible. So there is a data set that there's a strategy for each of those three different groups of chemicals that will be entirely data driven. And it's not a complicated sum. One of them is you wait till the numbers go up like that, and then you go in hard. And the other one is you've got consumption, it's dropped to zero. I'm going to go back to a state of monitoring. Perfect. I mean, absolutely.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but at least in the US, some of the different products a lot of the larger companies are concerned with, because some of the different rodenticides don't have the antidotes to them, right? And so that's always a big concern as well. And so I don't know if you're seeing that kind of reaction in the UK, but that's just always a big concern, at least in the mainland.
I think they're covering that up very well in the UK, Adam, if I'm honest with you.
Not covering it up at all. The thing is, so there are a lot of products out there that do not have.
There's fucking lots of dogs getting killed with calciferol, and we ain't talking about it. Lots of them.
Okay.
Lots of them. When you start speaking to groups of technicians, you start speaking to groups of technicians, it's amazing how many have heard of it. I know of I can't say the firm in particular. I know they've got quite a few technicians, and they were like, "We've had about 4 or 5 dead dogs as a result of
Okay.
and you're like, ooh,
My
ooh,
my take on this with all, because to speak of all chemical rodenticides, the acceptable volume of chemical rodenticide, regardless of whether it has an antidote
0.
or not, is 0.
Yeah,
If you have allowed that dog to gain access to that bait, be that an AVK, a calciferol, zinc phosphide, bloody strychnine that you found in your granddad's garage, the fault is not the fact that it doesn't have an antidote. The fault is that that animal has been allowed access, that you have allowed the risks to become unacceptably high. Accidents do happen, and that is a
Yep.
problem. However, antidote or not, if you know it has no antidote, then you should bait accordingly. And if you know that there is
Right.
a high risk of interaction with animals, it's not the fault of the product.
Agreed.
You can buy a claw
yeah,
hammer and bang your thumb with it. Is it the fault of the claw hammer, or is it the fault of the person swinging
Right.
it, putting their thumb in their way? Okay, so this antidote thing kind of winds me up a little bit, because we are professionals. We hang our hat on being professionals, so we should therefore act professionally.
I agree with you. That's a fair. Those are all fair points. I agree.
And that's me getting off the high horse and letting my blood pressure come back down a little bit.
No, I agree with
Um,
you. I think those are all valid responses. That makes sense.
oh, lovely stuff.
It's
So before we
accountability.
close up, accountability, yes. Do you have any questions for us, very quickly?
Oh, I think I'm okay. I appreciate you. I mean, like I'm so honored again to be here, and I appreciate you guys having me. And I'd love to come back anytime. And I feel like we could talk for
yeah,
hours, to be honest with you, about
yeah,
so many different topics.
yeah. Not fucking horrible little bugs that shit on you and scratch your shit into your bite. I'm not talking about that. I'm
I
not
mean,
talking
a
about
whole thing
that.
we haven't even talked about, Alex, is social media. We could come back and talk about social media one day.
Oh,
I'm sure you guys are aware I have a lot of followers.
yeah, yeah. How many you got?
On my TikTok, I have 540,000.
Wow.
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 We recently
Yeah,
just passed the 1,000 followers on Facebook
yeah.
mark, and we were fucking over the moon with that. I mean,
Yay!
Sean's doing backflips, and Hugh's doing a funny little dance, and
No, to be fair, I've
and
got 12. I've got 12,000 followers on TikTok, and I've only posted a
Yay!
handful of videos. Yay! We've been talking about this. I think actually that's a conversation of the day. Come on, let's wrap it up so we don't have to keep you all night, because we've had plenty of time out here, and it's really appreciated. So, have you enjoyed your time on the podcast?
Oh my God, I loved it. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I love being on podcasts and just getting to give back to the community, you know?
oh,
Yeah.
it's great, and it's lovely to talk shop, especially about technology and bugs, isn't it,
Yeah.
Sean? The bugs are the
No,
best.
no, no bugs.
So, question number 2: give us a shameless plug for Pest Sense, or for you, or for your consultancy, or both.
I think again, for anybody who's looking to adopt the technology, Pest Sense is definitely one of the big runners out there. And so again, if you're interested in the technology, or if you're interested in just talking technology in general, feel free to give me a shout out, because I'm open-minded about all the different options. And at the end of the day, it's whatever the best option is for you. It's not about Pest Sense. Pest Sense isn't always the best option. So as far as my consulting, I just started that recently. So if you go check out my LinkedIn, I've literally done everything. I call myself, again, everything everywhere all at once, like the movie. And so as far as in pest control, I feel like I've done it all. I mean, being a director of operation and being able to evaluate P&Ls, doing software evaluations, back-end software evaluations on your software you're using for your company, to be able to tell you if you're fully utilizing that, creating and implementing LMS, learning management software programs, certification, licensing, um, you know, informational trainings for all the different target pest species. I feel like I've done a little bit of all of that. And so if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Oh, that was 2 perfect plugs there. So the last
Yeah,
question
you can always tell the guys who've done sales, can't you? Because they know what first of all, they know what a plug is. Yeah, because someone goes, "Hey, what's that?" and then they smash it out the park. Last question. If you had to see a guest on here, who would you like to hear have a chat with us?
That's a good question. Who would I want to hear chat with you? I've been talking to this guy Marcus lately, out of Texas. I think his name's Marcus Scruggs, if I'm not mistaken. You guys know who he
Mhm.
is?
No, but go on.
He's all over LinkedIn. He's a I think he's been a technician. I think he's thinking about starting his own company, and he's very involved. He talks to Jorge, he talks to Lewis, he talks to all these people, and he just go to check out his LinkedIn. He just seems to be very involved in LinkedIn and putting stuff out there. And so he seems to be like a cool guy. He could be interesting. As far as I'm just trying to think of people that could benefit from the opportunity. Benefit from the opportunity versus people who have already been there, like Bobby Corrigan and all these people we know who are going to be on there, right?
Yeah. You might be able to help me with this then. I have had Bobby on, yeah. You might be able to help us out with this, Adam. I was reading a post on Pest Cemetery the other day, and they were talking about a lady who was a tech who was all over Pest Cemetery for a while and then went quiet. She's from New York and said she was really interesting, really good, but she sort of took a step back. She's a little bit on LinkedIn and stuff. Do you know who I'm talking about?
You'd have to tell me her name because I'm not on Pest Cemetery because I can't be on there.
I want to. Why?
You can only be on Pest Cemetery if you're a pest control owner.
Oh, right. She was called. I want to say Tammy. I want to say Tammy or something like that.
Tammy, if you can find her information, I will happily do some research for you.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I read the post, I was like, we need one of the American guys to do an introduction for us. I just have this feeling that whatever caused that to step back is a really interesting.
Oh, Andy's saying Jasmine Almeter.
Yeah, I think that's her. Yeah. One of you American guys, if you know, I would love someone to line us up with her because I think
from Rochester, New York.
Honestly, if you read that, it was just I feel like there's a story there.
Very interesting. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can definitely check her out on LinkedIn when we get off the call for sure. After I go do other fun stuff.
So talking of LinkedIn and plugs, people who are listening back to this who can't see the comments live, I have put in there the web links to the Pest Sense box, so you can have a good look at it online. And also I've put the links up there to Adam's LinkedIn, so you can go and connect with him professionally online too. Perfect stuff. Well, I think that brings us to a bit of a close, doesn't it? Do we have anything else we want to add, guys, before I draw the final curtain down around us?
Nope. I just want to say thank you very much, Adam. It's brilliant that we can get to speak to people across the country, and thank you very much for coming on. I look forward to trying your Pest Sense stuff, and I will definitely try it, especially in that tray form. I think that tray form would be useful to us.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Thank you. Again, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you very much. And to everyone listening, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Beauties and Beasties podcast.